Back to Daily Dose. My name's Robert here with my pal Susan, and who knows, Stella might make
Rolling.
an appearance. Um, we have a couple more things. You guys have been hanging in this series we've been doing. It's awesome stuff. Thank you so much for taking charge on these, Susan. What do you got?
I got a little bit about the back to the improv part. Encouraging us to stay in the scene, if you will. Um, what happens is when you play and you're engaged, you physically are leaning in. You're emotionally leaning in, but sometimes there's like a physical leaning in, listening, because the setup of the game is almost always about listening. And I will say with my writing, I pay attention to what was just said, what somebody, what I wrote that somebody said. Maybe what the next person said flows from that, but I need to eventually check that. Did he actually pay attention to what was said, or did he just say what he wanted to say?
Right.
Um, so that what sometimes happens is we learn stuff about what we just said or did from other people. And that's just an amazing gift to be able to be open to doing that. And there might be one more I can find. um, I'm yeah. So that sometimes people sort of dance back and forth between their emotions and their senses. And in the process, they get clear. We get clear about what is possible. And then when we're that clarity is there, then that your confidence begins to build. And and all of a sudden, a game you just played has facilitated you writing an ordeal, a life and death scene, because you, I don't know what, did gibberish or, made a face or something. And um, I love the connection between these two sides of this program.
Thank you. And I think you bring up an interesting point about the writer's journey, right? The Chris Vogler book and the apt title, because as writers, it's important to know enough to be clear, but also be open-hearted enough to understand you don't know everything, and therefore be in a discovery mode to make the big ask, to ask the tough questions, and to have the character do what we wouldn't, right?
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
the point of
yeah.
aesthetic distance, right? To write a person who is not us, that will absolutely do and say and act in a manner that we wouldn't. However, it suits the story. If we're a good listener, they already did it. We're just reporting it. We're going, oh man, no, I wish you wouldn't have, but this is
I
what you said
know.
or
I
did,
know. And then it was
right?
my fingers that typed that. It was my
And there's where the ego gets locked in, right? And again, I keep saying King, but he's not the only one that talks about the separation of the self from that which we create, right? When we are, in fact, great listeners, because that is the number one goal of improv, is to become a great listener, not a hey, look at me funny person. A great listener who supports the next idea, the first follower. Should we all be first followers, right? And therefore, and passionate and fervent first followers, dancing with the lone nut. Well, shoot, now we're off and playing, and the crowd comes running in, and it's a cacophony of ideas, and they are all somehow connected, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's where the writer can do well to lean on a well-known format, like, it's not the only one, but the hero's journey. If I use this to help shape what I'm doing, it doesn't have to be dogmatically applied, but at least to give me a pathway.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got those wonderful firing elements between the lone nut first follower and everybody else that crowded in. It's probably going to add up as long as it's clear and the stakes are high enough to make it engaging. It works.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all.
That's all. Yeah.
It ain't
Okay.
easy. It's
It
work.
ain't. Yes. Yes, but who would have ever thought that improv was the practice that you needed to jump over your own inhibitions to make to create something.
I think I knew it viscerally, and most people understand it in a way, performatively. Like, yeah, if you're going to go to that extreme, it probably is going to have a really good effect. But that's kind of like people who, will take cold plunges. We know the medicinal effect of cold plunges. Very few of us actually do them. I experienced one over the week up in Seattle. My friend and I went into very chilly Washington waters in the Sound, was totally medicinal. My mind lit up, my body exploded. I felt, I mean, what has been described to me almost like, a transformative, hallucinatory, not exactly, but that my mind opened up. Colors were brighter,
Oh,
everything was on fire, and yes, it works. Again, I've debated getting a cold tub. I know its effects, but it doesn't matter how many times we know it works. It still takes the courage to go in it and do it regularly. It's still an exercise. You don't go cold plunge once and go, that's
right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. But like the sign says over your shoulder in the mirror, you got to believe. You have to believe enough to get into that ice water. Woo.
You do. And I'll give you the going back to my friend I did this with. He was once a Hindu monk for, about a year and a half of his life.
Wow.
And he walked me into the cold water. Not that I wasn't going to do it, but he gave me some very wise words in about a sentence or two that the monk said, and then walked into the water and left it to me. And I went, I guess I'm walking in too. And I followed him. I yes anded him. I was the first follower. He dove, I dove.
Woo.
Oh, we were both electric.
Wow. Was it like a lake?
Yeah, a sound, the Puget Sound, the northern part of it.
And you literally walked in.
Yeah, it was rocks, and you could walk in and then take a dive. It got deep enough, fast enough. So,
You often have that choice with a swimming pool, and I've
oh
always been
sure,
the person that I just want to go in, just
yeah,
dive in, get it, freeze for a second, get it, as opposed to this slow.
yeah. You don't want to take a couple steps and think about it.
No, no,
That's probably the worst thing you could do.
right. Unless it's an improv game, and then you trust your teacher and you have fun with your classmates, and you accept it and live happily.
Take the
Just
plunge, absolutely.
take the plunge. Yeah,
Explosion. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think this is it, Susan. This is
I
our
think
doses. You
yes.
did a great job.
Well, yes, I had some great material to poke at me for a few years to realize that I just needed to put them together and say it out loud.
Well done. Well, the benefit is all of us. Thank you, everybody, for watching your dose. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with everybody. Keep it going. We've got a lot of great content, and we look forward to having you join us on the next Daily Dose. Take care.